Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Nuggets have fired their head coach and GM like right before the playoffs. What is going on in Denver? Also, what will the Cleveland Browns do with the number 2 overall pick? And the officials gifted Florida their national championship over Houston. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
Apparently, things were getting a little too boring in Denver, what with Nikola Jokic being awesome. So the Nuggets decided to fire Michael Malone and Calvin Booth just 11 days before the playoffs. Locked On Nuggets host Matt Moore and Ryan Blackburn tried to make sense of a move on a chaotic live reaction stream.
We'll start right here. This to me, I initially was like, wow, when the Malone news came out, I was like, okay, Booth won the power battle, and then immediately, nope. So I'm not surprised because I thought that if they lost in the first round, which it looked like they were going to, that the decision was going to be, you can't tell the difference. Did they not develop the young talent that Booth wanted? Did they give him too bad of a roster? Why don't we start over completely? So I'm not surprised. I said on Twitter, I'm surprised, not shocked. The timing is what the timing is. And I talked about this with Taylor Jenkins. If you know that you're not retaining them and you know that you want to go in a different direction and you've made that decision, then that's it. Now, there may have been something that happened that changed this and where it's just like, yeah, fine, you're both gone. We don't know anything about that yet. If that did not happen, then this was simply a matter of they felt it was time, so they made the move. David Adelman is your interim head coach heading into the playoffs. I do not have word on whether or not Ryan Saunders was retained or not. Let's just go to Cam first. Swipa, what's your reaction to this?
Yeah, well, number one, I want to obviously thank Michael Malone for everything that he's done for the organization. He's the winningest and best coach in organization history. I think also, too, with Calvin Booth, he obviously helped win the championship for the team. They deserve a lot of credit and respect for that. But I'm obviously shocked. Calvin Booth, we talked about this since last year, because of some of the decisions that he's made, things we heard behind the scenes. I am not surprised by this. I did not expect it to happen at this point in time, but did figure that this summer this would be something that would happen. Michael Malone, I am genuinely surprised about the timing. And especially given the fact that we have not yet reached the playoff. We don't know how the series we're going to go in the first, second, third, or championship round. But nonetheless, the Denver Nuggets, after a 4-game losing streak, the first since 2023, their defense has fallen off a cliff. He's basically said out loud that I've tried to provide all the answers possible, but the players are not adjusting and are not listening. So ownership, the Kroenkes, decided that they wanted to clean house from top to bottom, from Calvin Booth to Michael Malone, to get new blood into the building. So shocked, especially for someone who's been with the organization since 2014 and has led this team to the heights that has led it to. He was one of 4 of the coaches that have been tenured for this long, with 10 years on a team and a championship. So all those things put together, this is shocking, but this is the new NBA. Taylor Jenkins, just a week ago, was relieved of duties after being one of the winningest coaches in the history of the Memphis Grizzlies. And here we are, the winningest coach in Denver Nuggets history, Michael Malone, fired before the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, hang on. Statement from KSE, statement from Josh Kroenke, vice chairman of KSE. Is with no pleasure that we announce that we've relieved Michael Malone of his head coaching duties effective immediately. David Adelman will assume our head coaching role for the remainder of the 24-25 season. Decision was not made lightly and was evaluated very carefully, and we only do so with the intention of giving our group the best chance of competing for the 2025 championship and delivering another title to Denver and our fans everywhere. He means, and for Jokic. With the timing of this decision is unfortunate, as Coach Malone helped build the foundation of our now championship level program. It is a necessary step to allow us to compete at the highest level right now. Championship level standards and expectations remain in place for the current season. And as we look to the future, we look forward to building on the foundations laid by Coach Malone over his record-breaking 10-year career in Denver. There is no amount of gratitude we can properly convey to his contributions since he joined our franchise in 2015. It is with our utmost respect that we would like to thank Coach Malone for the most successful decade in Nuggets history, setting the all-time win record and helping deliver Denver our first championship. point of order, they are not firing Calvin Booth. They are not renewing his contract. I want to thank Calvin Booth for leading our front office for the past 3 years, and more importantly, for helping put the final pieces in place for the roster that delivered Denver and our fans the first NBA championship. Calvin's knowledge of the game, his passion for scouting, and his long history as a player and executive in the NBA helped lift our organization to new heights, which we will continue moving forward. We are grateful to Calvin for his 8 years with the Nuggets and know his place in Nuggets history as our first championship-winning GM will be honored for years to come. Ryan.
Well, Shams also came out with a follow-up tweet. This is tied for the latest coaching change in NBA history per ESPN research, matching Hubie Brown in 1980-81. So this is a big deal. Of course, this is a shocker based off of the timing. It is not a shocker for those that read the newsletter that I put out this morning that was basically like, hey, what happens if the Nuggets fail? And the two most important things that I wrote in there was that they will look at Michael Malone. His job is not safe. They will probably not bring back Calvin Booth. His job is not either. And the Nuggets, and I said this at the beginning of the year, that things had potential to be a disaster because of where things were going, unfortunately. And there's just a lot of pressure that when you stay stagnant, when you hold on for too long, it's like a soda bottle that you've shaken up a little bit, and the pressure is just going to build over time. And the pressure is built. It's been building internally. And earlier this week, I had also heard that higher ups at KSE were starting to feel sincere pressure about where this season was supposed to go, where it needed to go. And so I'm not surprised overall that this has happened. This is an unfortunate way. You could tell by the statements, like, Michael Malone meant a lot to this organization. He meant a lot to this team. That was a lot of words there. And I will be sad to see him go, just overall.
Hey, I'm just glad that everybody got what they wanted. That's finally all the folks that have wanted this for years finally got what they wanted. Michael Malone is the best coach in Nuggets history, hands down. He's been one of the best coaches. Look, that guy wins press conferences is what he does. Yeah. And Michael was not he's not always the most pleasant person to be around because he was obsessed with winning. I will tell you this, no coach I have covered, very few coaches I have covered have ever cared more about winning, losing, and the business of basketball than Michael Malone.
Stay up to date all year on the Denver Nuggets by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Nuggets on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. You're Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, who will the Browns draft with the second overall pick? Before we get to that, the NBA regular season coming to a close, which means plenty of playoff matchups yet to be set. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting easy, whether it's picking my favorite teams or diving into player props from three-pointers to steals to assists. There are so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance at even bigger winnings. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Minnesota Timberwolves, sitting right at the top of the play-in tournament, took a trip to Milwaukee to face the Bucks with a big lead in the fourth quarter. They were going to win until.
In something of a devastating microcosm of the Timberwolves season so far, the Wolves blew a 24-point fourth quarter lead and lost on the road to the Bucks, snapping a 5-game winning streak and unfortunately snapping a tie in the Western Conference playoff picture. I'm Ben Beacon, host of the Daily Locked On Wolves podcast, and this was a game the Wolves should have won. Obviously, the Bucks playing without Damian Lillard, the Timberwolves healthy, and Minnesota built a 11-point halftime lead. They built a 20-point lead at the end of the third quarter. It was 24 points early in the fourth, and all of a sudden, the offensive ball movement completely went away from Minnesota. They became kind of everybody that had the ball seemed to have tunnel vision, and the flow in the offense was completely gone. And the Bucks, on the other hand, couldn't miss. And the Wolves' defense was somewhat lackadaisical. They were grabbing, they were fouling. They ended up sending the Bucks to the free throw line 25 times in this game. Yes, Giannis had 11 free throws. They fouled Kevin Porter Jr. to the tune of 9 free throws. They fouled 3-point shooters. They turned the ball over. Basically, everything that could go wrong in the fourth quarter went wrong for Minnesota. The Bucks went on a 26-2 run in the fourth. and ultimately won the fourth quarter 40-13 as the Wolves fell on the road by 7. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Wolves for all things Timberwolves.
The Lakers squared off against the Thunder again, and Luka Doncic got kicked out.
Tuesday night, the Lakers, they kind of pulled the okie doke that everybody listed as questionable, thought it looked like they might be punting this game. Oh no, they came out and played everybody but Rui Hachimura, who is not yet cleared to play back-to-backs. Lakers, of course, in Dallas Wednesday night against the Mavericks. People might have heard that. And so they played the game. Like they went in. JJ Redick said, we got to win 2 games. We're going to use all of them to try to do it. And it was a fantastically entertaining game. And at 7 minutes and 40 seconds left, Luka Doncic, yelling at a courtside fan, Andy, gets tossed from the game by an overzealous JT Orr.
Knicks welcome the Celtics to town in a potential Eastern Conference playoff preview.
Boston Celtics win a wild one in New York City in overtime. Jason Tatum hits the game-tying shot in regulation, a deep three-pointer. Kristaps Porzingis got things started in the third quarter for the Celtics with a monster third, hitting 4-4 from 3. Drew Holiday was solid in the third quarter as well and down the stretch, giving the Celtics a solid, steady hand. Tatum did his heroic things as usual, but the Celtics were not their best in this game. They were out-rebounded 52-38. They gave up 23 second chance points. They gave up 22 points off of 15 turnovers. They were not sharp. Jaylen Brown was very much not himself because of that knee issue. Derek White was very much not himself, shooting 4 of 12 from 3. The Celtics still managed, though, to get this win in overtime. This is the best road record in Celtics history. If they win in Orlando on the back-to-back, they'll tie for the best road record in NBA history. That's a big thing for the Celtics heading into the playoffs, knowing that they have home court advantage for all but the conference finals and potentially the NBA finals. They still have confidence that they can win on the road.
And in the Dominican Republic, a devastating roof collapse at a nightclub in Santo Domingo has claimed the lives of at least 66 people, including former Major League Baseball players Octavio Dotel, Tony Blanco, and Nelsie Cruz, sister of All-Star Nelson Cruz. The tragedy struck during a concert early Tuesday morning and left more than 160 others injured. Major League Baseball and the global baseball community are mourning, with Commissioner Rob Manfred calling it a heartbreaking loss. We think we know what the Tennessee Titans are going to do with the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. That means the draft begins at number 2 with the Cleveland Browns, because we don't really know what they're going to do. We've heard a trio, at least, of names so far bandied about. Spencer German from Locked On Browns joins me now to try and parse through some of this stuff. Spencer, first, Adam Schefter was out there saying, I think it's going to be a quarterback. Then Abdul Carter, hey, look, this pass rush could be really scary. Now it's Travis Hunter. What do you make of all of this, and what makes the most sense for Cleveland?
Yeah, it is kind of funny how the conversations evolved over the course of the last several months. And you mentioned Schefter. He's probably been like the prime example of this, kind of going on the quarterback war at first, and then it became Abdul Carter, and now it's become Travis Hunter. I think that kind of just speaks to nobody's really known exactly what the Browns are going to do. I think they've kind of kept it close to the vest, and I think they prefer it that way. Like, I don't think they really want to give anything away at this point. And with a couple weeks to go here until the draft, I think there still are some conversations kind of going on about who they want to take. But my read on the situation is that it has kind of shifted away from taking a quarterback. I feel like maybe when Cam Ward was still a possibility before the combine, there was more of a chance that they could go that direction. Maybe, and I do think they like Shedeur Sanders. I just don't think they like Shedeur Sanders enough to take him at 2. And so I do think if they're decided between both Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter, that it probably leans Travis Hunter a little bit, because that at least half of what he does addresses a need for this team. And I don't know that there's a generational talent. Like, I think people have gotten that term is used too loosely at this point. I think people have kind of gotten caught up in throwing that around with Abdul Carter. But I do think they're looking for that player. I think because he can do multiple things, I think Hunter is a little bit more of that than what Abdul Carter potentially is. That's not to say Abdul Carter can't be a good player, but I just think there's a little bit more with Travis Hunter that you get.
So, okay, let's say that they draft Travis Hunter. Spencer, who is throwing him the football?
So if they end up taking Hunter, I still do believe in my heart of hearts, like, their plan is going to be somehow to revisit the Kirk Cousins conversation after the draft, which it sounds like that isn't happening. Nothing's happening with Kirk Cousins until the draft sort of goes through here and he gets a sense of like what teams are taking quarterbacks, what teams aren't. If it's a place he can go and probably play immediately, then I think the Browns maybe re-engage the Falcons, try to wait them out a little bit longer. I think the Falcons think they have more leverage than they probably do because I think in theory, like they don't really want to have this expensive backup just kind of sitting on their roster. But the Browns also can't take on enough of that contract that they're going to necessarily want either. So it's kind of this balancing game and this standoff between the two. Aside from Cousins, though, like I've kind of been reserved to the idea that the Browns feel like they're going to end up taking one of that next group of quarterbacks, unless Shedeur Sanders falls. Like if he falls to like the late 20s, and yeah, getting up from 33 to like 28, 29, something like that to get him does make a ton of sense if they were to pull the trigger on something like that. But if he gets taken maybe even by the Steelers, right? Like if he falls that far and the Steelers take him at 20 or 21 rather, then I think like they're in line for that next group of quarterbacks. So your Jalen Milrose, your Jackson Darts, maybe your Tyler Shuck. They have had Tyler Shuck in for a pre-draft visit. Milroe, they had a private workout with, so they have shown some interest in him. I don't necessarily love Jalen Milroe as a prospect, but I do think it just feels like the stars are kind of aligning for him to be the guy that they take as like a young rookie option for this team.
And we just found out that at least there was reporting that he accepted an invitation to the draft in Green Bay. And over the last few years, they have whittled that group down. They don't want guys sitting around. If he's going, that means the league likes him enough that they think he's probably going to go in the first round or thereabouts. So that would be certainly something to monitor here. The problem, Spencer, if you're the Browns, right, is they're becoming less and less of this second round, third round quarterbacks. Like if teams see them as franchise quarterbacks, they tend to go in the first round. And then it's like, well, we'll just wait. We saw this with Spencer Rattler last year. So any concern that they fall into this trap of like, well, if these quarterbacks go, we might just be left out here.
I think there's probably a little bit of concern with that. I envision like when they get to 33, there will still be somebody left. Like I don't think there's going to be like a run towards the end of the first round where like Milroe, Shuck, Jackson Dart are like all gone. I think that run probably comes more in the second round anyway. I actually think I even think honestly pick 33 might be a little bit too high for somebody like Milroe. Maybe Dart sort of fits there if they were to go that route. But you also have to, I always say, like, you almost always have to overdraft quarterbacks. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised to your point on Milroe being at the draft. It feels like if the Browns really love him or they really want him and Shedeur's off the board, that they would maybe even trade up into the first round just to take him for the sake of getting that fifth-year option. It doesn't hurt, especially with the quarterback position, to have that card to sort of play and be able to have that guy a little bit longer. So I almost wonder if like that is some of the motivation behind him maybe wanting to go to the draft or agreeing to go to the draft, is that he feels like somebody might pull the trigger late in that first round or trade up to get him late in the first round and try to maximize the potential window that you have with that quarterback.
Stay up to date all year on the Cleveland Browns by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Browns on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, the Houston Cougars were robbed of a national title. The Houston Cougars came up just short in the national championship versus Florida on Monday. Locked On Big 12 host Drake Toll believes that the officials gifted the Gators the title.
When your national championship has two of the most physical teams in college basketball, you go the entire first half and only call 4 fouls, and then the end of this game, we have 20 in the second half, and it's the entire determinant in that second half for who wins this game. That is a pitiful way to end your college basketball season. And once again, guys wearing the stripes wanted to be the star of the show. Houston did a lot of boneheaded, stupid stuff at the end, no doubt. And I'll get into the Emmanuel Sharp play, LJ Cryer completely falling apart. Honestly, the entire Houston offense falling apart. But where I first want to go with this is an impeccable national championship game where Houston is up 12 is ruined, where 11 fouls are called on the Cougars, 1 foul called on Florida in a short stretch in the second half. And from there, everything changed. Oh, he's complaining. Oh, this is just there's complaining. And then there's hard evidence, numbers to back this up. 4 fouls in the first half. 4. Houston is built like an NFL football team. Houston is built to play hard physical defense, and the Cougars had to completely rework the way they play their game. Florida wants to go fast. Florida wants to go up tempo. Houston does not. They're the slowest team in the country, the most physical team in the country. They want to beat the heck out of you on the boards. They want to take the ball from you when it's on the floor. That is what Houston is built on. And the officials said, fine, do it. That's legal in this basketball game until they decided it wasn't anymore. And that sucks. It sucks that I was having a really good time watching a college basketball game. You all were. And then they took over. I think UConn and Dan Hurley would have said the same thing against Florida. I don't know what Greg Sankey had to do at halftime, who he had to call, who ESPN had to call, or CBS had to call, or who got the phone. And the other line, the other side, the officiating crew, that person relayed, hey, we're going to need the Gators here. And from then on, this game was bad.
I would find this explanation much more compelling if Houston hadn't gotten into the penalty themselves to shoot free throws with 15 minutes left in the second half. They had the opportunity to go out there and do what they do all the time, be the more physical, aggressive team. Florida just happened to go out there and match that intensity, to get down in the muck and play the junkyard dog game with them. It's hard for me to be mad at the officials for the Gators getting away with some of the things that Houston gets away with regularly. They are a physical, aggressive 40-minute team. And so they get a little bit more leeway because you're either going to call everything or you're going to call nothing. Now, there was plenty of fouls going both ways in this game in the second half. It turned into a little bit of a ref show for a while. But that was because Florida was playing the more manic style of basketball. They were getting up and down. They were trying to get every deflection because they were fighting their way back. There was a stretch run in the second half where it looked like Houston just lost their legs. They looked exhausted. Guess what tired teams do? They foul. The best team won because it was the team that executed in the second half. Close game, late clock. They were the ones that were executing the switches, getting the right matchups, and then finishing around the rim with the hoop and the harm in a lot of cases. This was not about the officials. The official didn't cost Houston. Houston cost Houston. And it would have helped if they would have made their free throws too. And finally, Angel Cabrera is back at the Masters. The 2009 champion is playing at Augusta for the first time since 2019, returning after serving nearly 4 years in prison for assaulting and threatening 2 ex-girlfriends. Cabrera says he understands why some believe he shouldn't be in the field, but points to his lifetime exemption as a past champion. The 55-year-old Cabrera says he's focused on making the most of what he calls a second chance, both in golf and in life. It does strike me as strange that Augusta National is so particular about every little detail, about everything being right. There was a chance they weren't even going to invite the live golfers. All they did was take money now from a regime that is connected to some pretty horrible things. If they wanted to not have Cabrera show up, they could have told him, don't come. They didn't. And we have to remember that part of this too. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, how will the West shake out before the NBA playoffs? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.